I just don't know what to do without Tuck.
Cry, sob, cry some more.
Yes,
Tuck is the best of us,
but also the worst.
but also the best.
Because he's not here.
And we miss him.
Therefore, we hate him.
Therefore, we love him. Distance makes the heart grow fonder. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. Whatever the saying goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All wings report in.
House Dog, standing by.
MotherGoose, standing by.
Lowtech Tuck, standing by.
Lock S foils in attack position. Animal Squadron ready for battle.
Well, hello there. Welcome back to Animal Squadron. I am your host, the depressed Milky. With me today is the only other co-host that I have at this point, because our other one has sadly gone. I'm here with MotherGoose.
Hello, everybody. And yes, it is a sad day. Tuck is not here, but I just want to clarify when Milky says sadly gone, Tucker is not dead.
I'm trying to get us more views, Elijah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, Tucker died. We're really sad about it.
We're gonna feel really bad if he does get in a crazy accident and dies.
Yeah. I'd probably cut this part out, honestly.
I think he'd want us to leave it in.
If he could do one last thing for us, is get us more sympathy views, he probably would want us to do it.
Yeah, Tucker. So why don't? Never mind. I'm not gonna say go ahead and die.
Tuck, please live a long and happy life.
We need you for a little while at least.
Hey, sorry, can we talk about how every time I wear shirt from high school, you give me a really hard time about it, and now you're wearing something from high school?
Yeah, that's because you wear our nerdy old acting shirts.
It is the most comfortable shirt I have, okay?
When we've been out of high school for almost 10 years, dude.
Yeah, the hypocrisy is real.
Hey, man,
we've been out of high school for 10 years, dude. Why are you wearing a high school sweatshirt, huh?
I stole this fair and square.
I bought mine fair and square.
I don't wear it out though.
Yeah. But mine's super comfy and soft. I think you're just
So
mad
is mine.
because I still have mine and you don't have yours and you're jealous.
I do actually.
Oh.
I have all of my high school stuff.
Oh, I see. The hypocrisy is real.
Yeah, but I don't wear it's literally in a bag in a box. And the only reason I have them is because I was maybe one day I'll make a blanket out of all my cool old high school shirts, jerseys and stuff.
Yeah, I have a bag for that too.
But I've never done it or found anybody that does it, so now I just have a bag of well, they're high school shirts and concert shirts,
Yeah.
and stuff like that got too small.
Maybe we aren't so different, Milky.
We're all a part of the milk.
We're all a part of the great milk in the sky. Hey, guys, listeners, did you know that we actually talk about Star Wars on this podcast?
Sometimes.
Sometimes. Today we're going to be doing another character highlight. We're doing our good friend, Qui-Gon Jinn.
You're struggling really hard right there because of what we call it in Helldivers, aren't you?
Nope, not once, not even a little bit.
I'll leave that lore alone.
Yeah, what the audience doesn't know can't hurt them.
No. Yeah, we're talking about Qui-Gon. Tuck's gone, so we're not doing a new series yet.
Yeah. I do feel bad a little bit talking about one of the greatest Jedi of all time, but we also talked about Plo Koon without you, so it's fair.
I would have been upset if y'all would have talked about Qui-Gon without me. I don't care that you talked about Plo Koon without me, because Tuck's not here, so I can just badmouth Plo Koon the entire time.
Real. I think there would have been real issues if we talked about Plo Koon without without Tucker.
Maybe that's what we'll do today.
Maybe.
Plo Koon Part 2.
Welcome to
Yariel
Plo
Poof
Koon
Part 2.
Part 2. Yariel Poof Part 3.
No, I miss Tuck. I miss Tuck real bad.
Real. So, in terms of, like, Jedi, Qui-Gon, at least for your personal ranking, top 20, top 10, top 5?
Top 3.
Top 3?
Top 3, easy.
Hell yeah. And, I mean,
All day.
is it just a general top 3, or does he have a spot, like a set number in that top 3?
It's kind of like, you remember a long time ago whenever we did the movies?
Yeah.
Like back whenever Tuck first got on, we did our ranking of the films
Yeah.
or our music episode. 2 great episodes that if you haven't listened to them, you should go back
For sure.
and listen
for sure.
to those in the catalog. Out of like, because sometimes I go back and re-listen to our old episodes if I don't have anything that I want, because sometimes you get tired of listening to your music, or, you don't really have like a book or something that you're into at the time. So I just go back and listen to our old episodes. Those are probably like 2 of my top favorites, is our ranking and our music episode.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely great episodes.
But I would say, yeah, in my top Jedi, he's in top 3. I don't know exactly where he is in those top 3, but he's there.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I think I feel pretty confident putting him top 10 for sure, maybe top 5.
I mean, we all know that Pong Krell is in yours.
Oh yeah, Ponkrell, Dooku, Anakin, all the treacherous Jedi.
I don't know about that. Oh, I did see a thing on TikTok the other day that I thought was cool.
Tell me all
It's a
about
Star
it.
Wars thing. Somebody found like all the remaining Jedi that survived Order 66. It was in one of the new books that Disney came out with.
Yeah.
It might have been like Secrets of the Jedi or something like that. But they also took the still from Obi-Wan of all the names written in Aurebesh in the Underground Star Wars Railroad.
Yeah.
And one of the names on there was Ram Koda.
Okay. I don't
You
know
don't
if I know
remember
who
who
that
Ram Koda
is.
is.
I'm sorry.
Ram Koda he basically became the master of Starkiller in the Force Unleashed games.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah,
Hell
he was
yeah.
the old Jedi general.
Yeah. So he's canon, which, I mean, I think gives us all a little hope, right?
I mean, if Ram Koda's there, Starkiller maybe coming around sometime.
Yeah, we'll just have to see. Yeah, I think we've talked about it on a previous episode, but like currently a few months ago there was like 38. So I wouldn't be surprised if maybe there was like 40 to 50 Jedi who survived Order 66. I mean, that's not even 1% of the Jedi, like before
Sorry,
Order 66.
I'm
You know what I'm
sorry.
saying?
I'm sorry. I'm just so out of it. I was hearing numbers and words, and I was thinking of them, and my mind just kind of wasn't here.
No, that's okay. I've been homeschooling all day, so my brain's a little fried too.
Yeah, I think we're both kind of off today. Anytime Tuck is gone, I just feel off now, which is weird.
You are
It's weird. We keep bringing it up, but it's weird. Like, you and I did the podcast with each other for so long, and we just
Yeah.
had our rhythm. And then Tuck's been doing it for what, almost a year now?
I think almost 2.
Yeah, I don't count the year that I was gone.
Oh yeah, yeah. Those episodes don't count, of course.
Those are the dark times. We don't speak of them.
Yeah, maybe
Basically, the
Tuck's
year was I
captain.
was gone is Legends,
Yeah,
and I'm the current canon.
but yeah. So my whole point though is a lot of people complain about how so many Jedi survived Order 66, but really, that's not even 1% of the Jedi. I think that's a really fair number.
Well, I mean, if you want more stories and everything out of the universe, you have to have some Jedi that are around.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's a really good balance between them making new characters and bringing people back from either like Legends or current canon that we just never really explored.
Yeah, for sure.
Like Ram Koda, he's a Legends character from a video game from the mid 2000s.
Yeah.
Like, he's pretty obscure. Or like Quinlan Voss, who he was old EU stuff and then didn't come back until Clone Wars.
Yeah.
And then he's been around for a minute now.
Real. But we probably should circle back to good old Qui-Gon.
Qui-Gon. Yeah. Tuck and I, whenever, you're gone and it's me and him, we kind of just do what we want to do.
Yeah.
And then if we talk about what we're supposed to talk about, it kind of happens. You're way better about keeping us on track and what the episode topic is.
That's what I'm here for. And you guys do a really good job of staying on track, mostly. A couple tangents are okay.
They're all relevant.
Yes, of course. Of course. So
I think Qui-Gon's a good character, though.
Qui-Gon is a really good character. And
we
a
plan
really
on
important character.
Yes, super important. But he's good to do because we do plan on I don't think we mentioned it on the pod. And you can delete it if you want later, but we're gonna be reviewing Master and Apprentice on here.
Yeah, here in the next couple months, we should have a review out, which I'm really looking forward to. And, something we've kind of talked about, like we talked a lot about this during the Ahsoka episodes, is like the Jedi lineage. So, we have Yoda, who trained Dooku, who trained Qui-Gon, who trained Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, who's now training Sabine. This is one of the most important Jedi lineages in the story, and Qui-Gon serves a really important role in that.
Yeah, 100%. Without him, the galaxy wouldn't have wound up as it was, I don't think.
Yeah, for sure. And also, alternatively, like, if he'd been able to live a lot longer, I also think the galaxy would have been very different.
Oh, another quick tangent. I'm sorry, but it was a cool thing. It has to do with Anakin, who, was an apprentice of Qui-Gon, kinda. So last night, my friend, Britton, that we grew up with as well, just sent me this random text and was basically like, hey, do you think Darth Vader would have ever happened if Anakin was made an actual master on the council instead of just being put on the council but not given the rank?
Yeah.
And I was like just getting home from work. It was like almost 10 o'clock. And I was like, I texted him back real quick. I was like, give me 5 seconds to think about everything I want to say and I'll get back to you. And I just sent him like this page, like going all the way from like Phantom Menace to episode 3 of just all the reasons why Anakin still would have wound up being Vader.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's like a book. And I was just like, long story short, yeah, he would have become Vader even if he was made a master because of just everything. And he texted me back this really great point. He was like, all your points are super valid, but he was like, I think the Jedi Council is around 35% to blame for just not caring about Anakin enough and giving dead-end answers to questions and not realizing that the Chosen One might need some life coaching rather than just telling him you need more time.
Yeah.
I also blame Windu. To be honest, he always had hard jabs on Anakin behind closed door, and Yoda is just a gossip whore who made decisions based on others' feelings and not the Force. For being so wise, he sure couldn't see the biggest threat in the galaxy. But don't forget, Jar Jar fooled him first, because he was definitely a Sith.
Hell yeah, that's what I like to hear. Yeah, I agree with that. I think the council overall, yes, I agree with that statement. The him not becoming a master at the very end, honestly, at that point, I just think it was too late. There'd been too much that had happened to him.
Yeah, that's what I said in like I didn't want to talk about my whole explanation.
Yeah,
because it's like a book. But that's one of the things I said too. I was like, yes, him not being made a master on the council was a big blow to Anakin in the film. But you also have to remember, which is what I kept saying in my explanation, is I was like, this is an overarching story of many years of Anakin's life and all of the situations that happened to him. And we only get to see a couple.
Yeah.
You know? And yeah, that was a big blow, but really by that point, he was already in the hole. That was just another reason.
Yeah.
I think while not being made master was a big point, I think the bigger one was the moment directly after when Obi-Wan told him, yeah, we did make you a master. You're still on the council. That's a big deal. But basically the whole reason why we put you on the council was to go spy on Palpatine.
Yeah.
I think that was the bigger blow to Anakin than not being made a master.
Yeah. You know, because the council was right to be worried about Palpatine, obviously, but asking Anakin to spy on him was the wrong choice. Anakin was the wrong person.
Oh, yeah. 100%. If anything, I think like Yoda should have delved deeper into that.
Yeah. Well, to bring this back to Qui-Gon, though, you know, a lot of people like to talk about how, you know, if he hadn't died, Anakin wouldn't have fallen. And I obviously, this is hypothetical. We'd never know for sure. But that is something I definitely believe, just because he would have been there through a lot of Anakin's life. Like, just starting out in episode 1, you know, Anakin loses his mother and Qui-Gon, somebody he, you know, thought was going to be a father figure that got torn away from him.
That's what I said in my explanation too, which is kind of why I brought one. I thought it was a cool thing that, you know, another one of my friends who I don't do a podcast with, but he's one of my very best friends, just randomly texted me a Star Wars thing in the middle of the night. And I was like, this is kind of perfect to bring up on the podcast tomorrow if we do Qui-Gon, because like you were saying, Qui-Gon's a huge catalyst for what happens to Anakin. And that's also what I said in my explanation, what you were saying about him losing his mother in episode 1, just emotionally and everything, not being with her anymore.
Yeah.
And then immediately losing this man who's taken over that father role that he never had during the first 9 years of his life.
And who steps into that father
Yeah.
role?
Palpatine.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I don't think a lot of people see that. I think people think of like Obi-Wan as that, but Obi-Wan was never meant to be his father figure. I mean, and there is that line in episode 2 that Anakin, you know, he kind of does see Obi-Wan as a father figure, but for the most part, they always refer to each other as, you know, having that brotherly type relationship and everything. But yeah, Palpatine steps in as soon as Qui-Gon's out of the picture, which affects him so heavily because Qui-Gon not only like had that father relationship with Anakin, but really he was the only one who understood Anakin's emotions and why he would feel the way he did. Mm-hmm. And actually talk to him about stuff and be like, hey, I know you're afraid or worried about things, but you just need to pay attention to what I'm doing. And then we're going to talk about what's going on. Right. Because anytime Anakin has a question in Phantom Menace, Qui-Gon does his best to not only like give him an answer, but be honest with him, which are two like completely different things. Because you can answer a question and then you can, you know, be like brutally honest with someone and just tell them like the whole truth of the world with something, which is what Qui-Gon did.
Yeah, and I think, you know, Qui-Gon, he had all of the same issues with the Jedi Council that Anakin does. And he could have, just to bounce off what you were saying, could have helped Anakin healthily process those issues and see that, yes, we can disagree with the Council, but we don't have to kill all of them, you know?
You know, there's always two ways to do things.
Yeah, for sure. I want to talk about his lightsaber. It's such a, like, simple design, but I love it so much. It's one of my favorite lightsabers.
I was about to say the same thing. I think because we grew up when we did, I think that's why we like Qui-Gon's lightsaber so
There's
much.
the
Because
nostalgia there,
yeah, I think if I grew up as a kid today, honestly, a lot of people hate it, but I think probably like Kylo Ren's lightsaber would probably be one of my favorites. Yeah. If I grew up with those set of films, I'd probably be like, Anakin's lightsaber's really not that cool. Kylo Ren's is way cooler.
Yeah, to be fair, I am not the biggest fan of Anakin's lightsaber.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm just not the biggest fan of its design. I feel like there's a lot of lightsabers that are really overly designed, not in a bad way, but like Kylo Ren's lightsaber, like there's just a lot of detail to it. Like one of my favorite details is the exposed red wire that you can see on it.
Yeah, that runs through it.
Yeah. So while I just want to be clear, I really love a lot of these designs, especially when there's a lot to it. But man, just something about Qui-Gon's, it's just so minimalistic.
Oh, I think I know another reason why we like Qui-Gon's lightsaber.
Because we had it as a toy and got to fight our friends with it.
Yes,
Hell yeah.
every plastic lightsaber that came out whenever we were kids were all basically Qui-Gon's.
Mm-hmm.
Like they could have, there was like red, green, blue. There was a purple one, but like none of them looked like the Jedi whose like colors those belong to besides Qui-Gon's.
Yeah.
Like even the red one, like it wasn't Darth Vader's lightsaber. It was just Qui-Gon's.
Yeah. I still have mine. I have a green and a red one with Qui-Gon's lightsaber hilt, and then I have a purple one which actually has Obi-Wan's original lightsaber hilt.
Yeah, I've got my red one in here as well.
Hell
in
yeah.
my office.
Which Obi-Wan's original lightsaber hilt is great too, and I think we've kind of talked about it before, but just the fact that there's a lot of similarities in the design between Obi-Wan's original hilt and Qui-Gon's hilt.
Yeah. Is Qui-Gon does Obi-Wan's have the different pommel at the end?
Yeah.
Is that their only difference?
Pretty much. And then like they've got very similar like handholds. They are very unique lightsabers. Like clearly Obi-Wan's is Obi-Wan's and Qui-Gon's is Qui-Gon's, but you can see that Qui-Gon's was an inspiration, I think would be the best way to phrase it, for Obi-Wan's.
Yeah.
Which then get passed down to Luke's lightsaber. His second lightsaber is very clearly inspired by Obi-Wan's second lightsaber.
Right.
Something we kind of talked about before we started recording is that Qui-Gon has different ages on Legends versus canon. Like in Legends, he's 60 years old, and in actual canon, he's, 48?
Whenever he dies, yeah.
Yeah, which, I mean, just Qui-Gon in Episode 1 definitely looks a lot more like a 48-year-old man. I feel like the canon version is a lot more accurate.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I find it interesting that they changed his age. Couple little tidbits about him. He was born on Coruscant.
Yeah, which I don't know why we forgot that.
Yeah, it's something people talk about a lot.
Because I remember it was in Tales of the Jedi in the Dooku episodes, because Dooku talks about Qui-Gon being in the gardens and him being born on Coruscant, and the tree there was his favorite thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because he was literally born in a world with no like foliage or anything. Like this was it.
Yeah. Which, that's another thing. Another Jedi that I really wonder would have fallen if Qui-Gon hadn't died was Dooku. I feel like Dooku was on that path, but Qui-Gon's death really pushed him over.
Oh, yeah.
Which is something I loved about Tales of the Jedi. Obviously, those episodes were about Dooku, but we got so much more about Qui-Gon. We got to see their relationship, and we got to see just how much Dooku really cared about Qui-Gon, which I really loved.
Mm-hmm. Which, and like I said, I'm not going to get into Master and Apprentice since we plan on covering it later, but that relationship is really cool too.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times we get flashbacks of Qui-Gon remembering his training with Dooku, which the book isn't canon anymore, which is kind of sad because that book is really cool. But again, we
Yeah.
say it all the time. Whatever media enhances your Star Wars experience, who cares if it's not labeled as canon?
Right. And,
If you think it makes it better, what does it matter?
I've mentioned it too. There's a lot of old EU books that like don't necessarily contradict anything in canon, like Disney canon. So if there's no real contradictions, look at it as canon. Like who cares, right?
Yeah, what does it matter?
Yeah. Something else I really love is Wikipedia has Yoda listed as one of Qui-Gon's
I was about to bring that
apprentices.
up.
Yeah.
I was about to bring that up.
Man, he's such an important Jedi. Like, he plays such a small, like, screen time wise, he has such a small presence with what he does, connecting with the Force and becoming a Force ghost and teaching Yoda and Obi-Wan. It just is so important to the story.
Yeah, and I like how we're getting more Qui-Gon as the years go by.
Yeah.
Like, we saw him again in Tales of the Jedi, and we talked about it then.
We see
His
him in
son
Kenobi.
actually coming to do the voice
Yeah.
for young Qui-Gon instead of Liam Neeson, which was cool. Mm-hmm. And then, yeah, he came back for Kenobi, looked great, loved it. Hope he comes back for Kenobi season 2. I know it's happening. They can't keep it from us forever.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know, like, the director had only planned for the one season, and it was its own contained story, but, I mean, season 2 could be a whole different adventure.
I wouldn't care if all season 2 was Ewan McGregor and Liam Neeson in,
Talking about the Force.
at Ben's home in
Yeah.
the John Lois.
That would be
I would
awesome.
not care if that was all season 2 was, and just like uncovering more of that side of the Force. Mm-hmm. I think that would be. I don't know how many people would really find it interesting without any like blaster bolts flying and lightsaber duels, but I think there's a very good amount of us in the fandom that would be like, this was great for growing the lore.
Yeah, for sure. Like we've talked about, there's the Leia fans who like the political aspect, the Han fans who like the bounty hunter, smuggler, criminal aspect, and then there's the Luke fans who love the Force, Jedi, Sith aspect of Star Wars. And I feel like the Luke fans would be eaten good with just a big lore dump like that.
I would be having a great time.
So something that's really interesting about him becoming a Force ghost that I definitely think we should talk about is the fact that like he was not able to like form his Force ghost self because he wasn't finished with his training. But post-death, he was able to continue in his training and actually achieve the Force ghost level.
Which we found out about in Clone Wars.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because he comes back in the Mortis trilogy. Mm-hmm. Because Mortis is literally like a Force planet.
Right. Makes it a little easier.
Yeah. I feel like we get him again later. I mean, he speaks to Anakin in episode 2.
Yeah, and I think we hear him speak to Yoda.
Yes, in Clone Wars. Sorry, I was having to
No, that's
go
okay.
through the catalog. I was going through the catalog. That's what sends... Because that was the season that never got finished. Those
Right.
were the lost episodes. Were those, like, 10 that whenever the show got dropped from Cartoon Network, Netflix picked it up and put out those episodes.
Right. Which then we only got some
12,
of them.
13,
Yeah.
I think, maybe?
Yeah.
I don't
and
know.
then
I've
we
got Disney Plus pulled up.
Then we got some more when Disney did season 7, but Dave Filoni, Disney, give us the last of the lost episodes, please and thank you. So I know we're going to be talking about Master and Apprentice, but honestly, are there any really big lore things or really cool moments in that book for Qui-Gon? And I'm totally okay with spoilers.
I'm not going to talk about it until you've read it or listened to it.
Drats. I'm looking through, and there's a lot of like comic book appearances, which is really cool. Like, he fought some pirates. Obviously, there was the protecting Duchess Satine.
Which I wouldn't know about that.
Yeah, I feel like there's a novel or a comic that covers it. But it says,
comic.
Jinn and Kenobi spent a year on Mandalore with Kryze, remaining on the run from bounty hunters. The three remained unsure of what the future would bring, but they continued their effort to survive, living hand and mouth every day. Oh, this is during the mission, Kenobi developed romantic feelings for Satine. Qui-Gon became aware of the unlikely romance between his apprentice and the noble. Yeah, doesn't really specify on that, but I think that's important to talk about because we do get some really good parallels between Kenobi and Satine and Anakin and Padme. And
yeah.
I think the big difference, while it doesn't really go into detail here, I think a big difference of it probably is Qui-Gon.
Which I'm surprised Qui-Gon, being the man he was, didn't encourage Obi-Wan to follow his heart more.
Yeah, which maybe he did. Again, neither of us have read this material in depth. I didn't realize that they were there for a whole year.
I think he says that in Clone Wars during one of the Mandalore arcs.
Yeah.
It might be whenever we first meet Satine, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I think he gives us an actual time of how long they were together.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think I was just forgetting about it. Manifesting his consciousness. That's how you phrase the a Force ghost situation. I couldn't think of how to phrase it correctly.
We can talk about Qui-Gon and Dooku, though.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Tell me everything.
No, I just think it's important. You can't really talk about Qui-Gon without, like you mentioned earlier, the lineage of basically this Jedi family.
Yeah.
You know, starting with Yoda and then Dooku and then Qui-Gon and then Obi-Wan, Anakin, Ahsoka, and then later Sabine. Like, that's a really long line of interesting heroes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that all played really important roles in the galaxy and will continue as, the Ahsoka Peridea story continues.
Was that the planet they were on?
I'm pretty sure it was Peridea. If not, it was
How
something
do you
like
how
that.
do you remember that? How do you remember that?
I've watched Ahsoka like 2 or 3 times.
Okay, that makes sense then.
Yeah, talking about Qui-Gon and Dooku, the not Master and Apprentice, the Tales of the Jedi episode, specifically the one where Qui-Gon stops Dooku when he's trying to kill that senator, really shows who Qui-Gon is as a person and as a character, because not only was he the apprentice in that situation, he was a apprentice who, had every reason to want to impress his master or could easily be molded by his master. But in that situation, he does the right thing and he stops him.
Yeah, but with Master and Apprentice, that's why I don't understand why it's not canon anymore, because it makes Tales of the Jedi make more sense too.
Gotcha. Okay.
Of like how they interact and everything.
Yeah.
Of how basically throughout the relationship, Qui-Gon just kind of accepted who Dooku was. Mm-hmm. He never really thought less of him or anything, or that he was a bad person. He just kind of accepted, this is who my master is.
Yeah.
And Qui-Gon wouldn't have been interested in the prophecies if it wasn't for Dooku. Dooku's the one who got into... Yeah, Dooku was in the prophecy.
Yeah.
And that's how Qui-Gon got into it.
Makes sense. I see it. So what was, in terms of like Dooku and, imprinting that on Qui-Gon, what really interested Dooku? Was it just a search for the Chosen One? Did Dooku think one of them may have been the Chosen One?
Well, it's interesting, and we can talk about it when we talk about the book, but there was a time where Dooku was really interested in prophecy and then got away from it. And then Qui-Gon gets into it. And Dooku's like, stop looking at the prophecies.
Oh.
Like the Jedi of old got lost in this.
Gotcha.
And the reason why it wasn't against anything, but it wasn't encouraged to get involved in prophecy heavily because the Jedi, like there were these Jedi, like their entire job was just to interpret dreams and everything and to interpret prophecies. And sometimes it led to the dark side.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why people got away from it. And I think that's probably why Dooku got away from it at one point. And then once Qui-Gon gets into it, Dooku's like, if you're going to look at this, you're going to look at it with me and we're going to study it together.
Yeah. Let's really...
Which I thought was kind of cool.
Yeah, let's think critically on it so we don't just kind of become religious fanatics. Yeah.
Yeah, so we don't get lost in what everything means. And then Qui-Gon continues that with Obi-Wan. Whenever Obi-Wan becomes his apprentice, like, all Qui-Gon really ever has Obi-Wan do is study prophecy and stuff.
Yeah.
Which upsets Obi-Wan, like, all the time. He's like, all the other Jedi get to do cool stuff, and you just have me read stupid books and prophecies. Like, this is nonsense.
Yeah, which, kind of, bringing that up, I think it could be argued that Qui-Gon did get a little lost in it.
I think that's how he's certainly portrayed in the movies.
Yeah.
I think it helps Yoda not seem so kooky in the original trilogy.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, the way everyone treats Qui-Gon in the prequels is kind of how Yoda gets treated in the original trilogy whenever Luke and him kind of first meet.
Yeah,
and he's
I see
like,
what you're saying.
Yoda's just this weird old guy who just spouts nonsense all the time and isn't really like serious. And Qui-Gon's kind of viewed the same way by the Council. Like the Council doesn't respect Qui-Gon at all.
Yeah.
They think he has all these ideas and everything and that he's not your typical Jedi. I mean, whenever we think about other Jedi that we know about, like Quinlan Vos, who's a total outcast, like Obi-Wan doesn't like Quinlan at all.
Yeah.
Because he's kind of like this free spirit who just kind of does what he does.
Yeah.
But he's still like a very good Jedi.
Am I remembering this correctly? I feel like there's something somewhere that talks about Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon. Like they disagreed a lot because of that, because Qui-Gon was a little more out there and Obi-Wan was a little more traditional.
Well, yeah, he says it in episode 1. Whenever, after they get back to the temple, and Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon are talking at like sunset outside of the chambers. They're walking along that like part of the temple outside. Mm-hmm. And Obi-Wan tells him, he's like, if you would just go with the council more, you would be on the council.
Yeah. Right.
Which I think is like really cool to think about a young Obi-Wan and like how naive he really is.
Yeah.
Because at this point in their relationship, they finally do have that really good master and apprentice like partnership. Mm-hmm. Whenever we meet them in episode 1, which wasn't always the case.
Yeah.
To where Obi-Wan understands Qui-Gon now. He still doesn't agree with him on everything. And that's why their relationship works. They respect each other and they don't have to agree on everything. But he's like, Master, I know who you are. I spend all of my time with you, basically. Like, if you would just give on a few things, like, you'd also be one of the most respected people in the temple. But that's just not who Qui-Gon is.
Right. And I think, what I love about this is we've kind of talked about really good representations for the Jedi and really good representations for, like, why the Jedi fell. And I think Qui-Gon is a fantastic example of what the Jedi should be.
I think parts of Qui-Gon are.
That is true. I have not read Master and Apprentice, so we'll see if my opinion changes after we get there.
It's not even really because of Master and Apprentice. It's just, if you think about Qui-Gon and everything, like, if he wasn't so headstrong about everything that he felt.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he should have like gone along with everything just to be a part of the council or anything like that, but if he would have just given a little bit in a few areas, I feel like he could have been so much more influential to the order as a whole.
Yeah, okay. See, I see what you're saying, right? Because he genuinely could have made positive change in the council. And I agree with that. But also, the statement, if he'd just given a little bit, isn't that just, like, why the Jedi fell, though? Because they just kept giving and giving, and I don't know. I feel like if he would have given, he probably would have... It would have started with a little, and it just would have kept going more and more, you know, until he was just another Jedi on a flawed council.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what Acolyte showed us too.
Yeah.
Is that it doesn't really matter what the council does. Like, yeah, they're overall in charge of everything.
Mm-hmm.
But there's other Jedi in the temple that have just as much power.
Right.
And everybody has free will. They're all supposed to be serving the greater good and the grand idea and the tenets of the Jedi Order. Yeah. But they're still people, and they have their own agendas.
Yes, 100%.
I got a question for you.
Oh, okay. I have a question for you, but you go first.
You go first. I've been talking a lot.
No, I was just going to ask. So in Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, Dooku tells Obi-Wan that if Qui-Gon had lived, he would have joined him. Do you think Qui-Gon would have joined the dark side if he'd lived? Do you think Dooku was right in that moment?
No, I don't think Qui-Gon would have ever left the Order.
I agree.
I think he gets upset with the Order and he gets upset with the way they do things, but I think even though he chose not to be on the council and remained with Obi-Wan, instead of becoming a part of it, where, yes, he could have made some change, but I think he kind of weighed his options and he realized, like, I can probably make just as much change if I just stay a master. Like, I could have other pupils. Like, he finds Anakin and he's like, I've taught everything Obi-Wan knows. Obi-Wan's a great Jedi, and he's going to become an even greater Jedi than I am. Let me take the boy. I'm ready to still teach.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he would have just continued doing that. I think he would have just taught more Jedi. And I really like how he never tried to change Obi-Wan and who Obi-Wan was. He just tried to make him see things a little bit differently.
Yeah. No, I think 100% in that scenario, Dooku... I don't think he was really trying to turn Obi-Wan with that line. I think he was trying to justify what he did to himself. I think Dooku realizes that Qui-Gon is one of the best Jedi that have ever been, that ever was, and by telling himself, oh, Qui-Gon would have fell too, he's justifying his immoral actions to himself.
I don't know if Dooku ever really saw himself as falling as much as ascending.
Yeah.
Rising above the dogmatic views of the Jedi, which one of my favorite lines in Star Wars.
For sure. Dooku's
from Palpatine himself.
Yeah. Dooku's a really great character that we'll have to do a character highlight on at some point as well. But you also had a question. What were you going to ask?
I don't have an answer, really. I just kind of wanted to see what you thought, because I feel like a lot of people talk about this. In Episode 1, when they're fighting in, like, the planet core.
Yeah.
And Qui-Gon kneels and meditates while he's dueling Maul. What do you think that moment's about? And why do you think Qui-Gon was meditating?
Ooh, I don't feel like I have a definitive answer, but if I were to just guess at this moment, I would say that just based on the duel, maybe Qui-Gon could tell he didn't have great chances, so he was trying to connect with the Force as much as possible before passing. What do you think?
I agree with you. I think it's like, it was obviously like to pay homage to like Japanese culture and everything, you know, like the samurai, which we've talked about it before on the show. Obviously George was influenced by that. He's talked about it and everything. And like that's where the Jedi come from, is the samurai and everything. Yeah, I think he was meditating, and we see it in Phantom Menace whenever he fights Maul the first time. He's like super winded.
Yeah.
Like he can barely breathe after just that short interaction. He has to run away from the fight.
Right, just something that we haven't really talked about is, while he's a fantastic Jedi, his lightsaber skills are not the best.
No, and that's another thing about Master and Apprentice that's really cool, is there's a moment in the book where Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan are talking, and he asks Qui-Gon, how come you never taught me further lightsaber forms? Like, all you ever tell me to do is the basics. Like, that's the only really like lightsaber instruction Qui-Gon gives Obi-Wan. He doesn't spar with him, anything like that. Never teaches him like further forms. All he ever tells him to do is go to the training room for the Padawans and work on your basic forms. That's all I want you to do. And he's like, he just asks Qui-Gon straight up, he's like, how come you never have taught me anything else or shown any interest in it? And all Qui-Gon tells him is, I thought if I could have you be absolutely perfect at the basics, you would never question yourself in battle, because you knew you could do the basic moves perfectly without having to worry about pulling off something crazy from a different form. I knew that you could always take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Because you had truly mastered something.
Yeah.
Instead of like half-assing something and learning something new and cool.
Right. Which, sorry, I kind of got us on a tangent there, but I felt like it was important to kind of talk about with what the direction you were going. So you were talking about him being winded in his first fight.
Yeah. So I think it led to the final battle in episode 1 where I think Qui-Gon knew he was overmatched. Mm-hmm. Maybe he was trying to buy Obi-Wan some more time. I mean, they were separated by the force field generator things.
Yeah.
And so I think he really was just meditating one last time, trying to like muster all of the force that he could and preparing himself to go into the cosmic force.
Yeah.
As well as like maybe he could fight Maul long enough that Obi-Wan could get there.
Yeah.
But I think he knew he was done for.
Or alternatively, even just fight Maul long enough to tire him a little bit to give Obi-Wan a better chance.
Right, because he says it in their first fight that the guy was super skilled in lightsaber combat, or in the Jedi arts.
Yeah.
And that he'd been trained.
Well, I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to talk about, except for Qui-Gon would have never let me stay a slave, and I stand by that. He would have found a way to free her at some point.
Oh, what do you think about Qui-Gon being burned on Naboo instead of at the temple?
That's a really tough question. I think thematically, it's really important, just because Naboo is such an important planet. It's the first time that somebody really fought a Sith in a very long time, at least that the Jedi know about. So I'm okay with it. And I think it was also I think it may have been more for the people of Naboo, because they saw him as one of their saviors, so they would want to be at his funeral as well, you know?
Yeah. I don't know if I talked about it with you or on an episode that you were gone, but the Anakin returned to Naboo. Oh, I think in episode 2.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's canon anymore. Sadly, I think it was from a comic book, maybe.
Yeah.
He returns to Naboo. It's whenever him and Padme go back.
Yeah.
And it's like on one of the nights he can't sleep because he's having visions of his mother and everything. And he goes, the Naboo actually made a statue of Qui-Gon.
Hell yeah.
And he goes to the statue and he like tries to connect with it. And ask Qui-Gon for advice because of everything that's going on. It's either in episode 2 or after they get married. I can't remember. But I don't know if
Gotcha.
I ever told you that.
No, that's really cool. One, that they made a statue for him, but two, that Anakin got a chance to go visit it.
Yeah.
Well, audience, I think scheduling-wise, I think Terrifying Tales next week. Very excited to watch it, get into the spoopy spirit.
Terrifying Tales next week.
Terrifying Tales.
How are we going to do Terrifying Tales, Elijah?
How are we going to do it?
Yeah.
I'll have to look at the timeline of like how long it is, but we may do a normal review or we might do a live commentary of it.
I can tell you how long it is if you'd like me to.
Tell me how long it is.
44 minutes and like 18 seconds.
Hell yeah. Yeah, well we may be doing a live commentary. We'll just have to see. Anyway, thank you guys so much for listening. We really do appreciate it. If you want to be a part of this conversation, you can email us at animalsquadron@gmail.com. Again, that is animalsquadron@gmail.com. And if you could leave us a review wherever you're listening, that would be amazing. For the Animal Squadron, this has been MotherGoose.
And Milky.
Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.